What happens when the hunter becomes the hunted? When the very person who built their career on getting Trump suddenly finds themselves facing federal investigation for mortgage fraud? Well, buckle up, because what just happened to New York Attorney General Letitia James is nothing short of a political earthquake that's sending shockwaves through the entire Democrat establishment. Ladies and gentlemen, August 21st, 2025 will go down in history as the day justice finally caught up with one of the most vindictive prosecutors in American politics. After months of parading around like she had single-handedly taken down Donald Trump, Letitia James just suffered the most devastating legal blow of her career. And folks, this isn't just about one case. This is about the complete collapse of the weaponized justice system that Democrats have been using as their personal political weapon. Let me paint you the picture of what just happened. A New York appellate court, not some conservative tribunal, mind you, but New York judges just threw out the massive $500 million civil fraud penalty against President Trump. 5 judges looked at Letitia James' so-called case and essentially said, "This is unconstitutional garbage." I have been skeptical of the Attorney General's case for a long time. This is a stinging rebuke to the Attorney General, Letitia James. You know it's bad for Democrats when even CNN is calling it a stinging rebuke. The court didn't just reduce the penalty, they obliterated it completely. They found that James violated Trump's 8th Amendment rights with what they called egregious penalties. Now, let's talk about what this case was actually about, because the mainstream media has been lying to you for years. Trump was accused of overvaluing his properties when applying for loans. But here's the kicker. Every single bank that lent him money got paid back in full with interest and made millions in profit. The banks made money, lots of money, beautiful money. They loved doing business with me. No victims, no crimes, just another witch hunt. So let me get this straight. You commit fraud against banks that make millions of dollars and want to continue doing business with you? That's like saying I robbed a bank that thanked me and asked me to come back next week. But this goes much deeper than just one bogus case. Letitia James literally campaigned on prosecuting Trump. She went on camera multiple times promising to get Trump before she even saw a single piece of evidence. That's not justice, that's political persecution, plain and simple. In any functioning democracy, what James did would be called what it is: abuse of power. You're supposed to investigate crimes and then find the criminals, not target individuals and then hunt for crimes. This is banana republic stuff, folks. Now, here's where it gets really interesting. While James was busy trying to bankrupt Trump, the Department of Justice was quietly building a case against her. Special Attorney Ed Martin has been investigating James for mortgage fraud, and let me tell you, the evidence is damning. Martin actually went to James's Brooklyn home to examine the property personally. Why? Because there are serious questions about whether she lied on mortgage documents about how many units her property contains and whether it's actually her primary residence. I wanted to lay eyes on it. If you're prosecuting something, you're careful. I wanted to see the property to make an assessment. The irony is absolutely delicious. The woman who spent years trying to destroy Trump for alleged financial crimes is now under federal investigation for the exact same type of misconduct. But it gets even better. Martin has now formally asked James to resign from office as an act of good faith while the federal investigation proceeds. In a scathing letter to her attorney, Martin laid out the evidence and essentially said, "Your client is cooked and everyone knows it." The letter references admissions that James's own lawyer made in correspondence with Attorney General Bondi, admissions that essentially confirm she helped her niece with fraudulent mortgage applications while claiming properties weren't her primary residence when documents show otherwise. This isn't just about Letitia James. This is part of a massive cleanup operation that's exposing corruption throughout the Democrat establishment. Senator Adam Schiff, yes, the same Adam Schiff who spent years lying about Russian collusion, is also under investigation for mortgage fraud. Federal Reserve Governor Lisa Cook is facing similar charges. When you put these people together and they're always working together, that's called an enterprise. That's called a criminal enterprise. What we're seeing is the systematic exposure of a corrupt network that used government power to target political opponents while enriching themselves through the very crimes they accused others of committing. Ed Martin also revealed something absolutely shocking about the Biden administration's treatment of January 6th defendants. They put virtually every arrested individual on the terrorism watch list, not because they met the criteria for being terrorists, but simply to punish them when they traveled. When President Trump pardoned these individuals, they were immediately removed from the list, proving it was never about national security. The IRS was also auditing January 6 defendants at significantly higher rates than other groups. This is the kind of weaponization of government that we've never seen in American history. Former Trump counselor Kellyanne Conway perfectly captured the moment when she thought James thought that by 2025, Trump would be broken behind bars while she'd be governor of New York. Instead, Trump is president of the United States. The appellate court has tossed this out, and I would call her irrelevant, but she's relevant in one way. Conway also pointed out that James has a history of making juvenile social media posts like, "Roses are red, violets are blue, no one's above the law, same applies to you." Well, Tish, how's that working out for you now? The mainstream media is having an absolute meltdown over these developments. CNN tried to frame Ed Martin's property visit as somehow inappropriate, even though prosecutors routinely examine crime scenes and evidence. They're desperately trying to spin this as intimidation when it's actually just basic investigative work. James's lawyer, Abby Lowell, appeared on CNN calling the investigation politically motivated, which is rich coming from the team that spent years politically weaponizing the justice system against Trump. This appellate court decision isn't just about one case. It's about restoring the rule of law in America. For too long, corrupt prosecutors like James have been allowed to abuse their power for political gain. Now, finally, there are consequences. The case will likely go to New York's highest court, but the damage to James's credibility is already done. The appellate judges didn't just rule against her, they systematically dismantled every aspect of her case and found constitutional violations. President Trump promised during his campaign that he would clean up the weaponized justice system, and that's exactly what's happening. Ed Martin and his team are methodically working through the evidence, preparing grand jury proceedings, and holding people accountable for their abuse of power. As Martin said, many of the same people involved in the Russia hoax are also involved in the January 6th witch hunt and the various lawfare cases against Trump. It's the same criminal enterprise over and over again. While James was wasting taxpayer money on her Trump vendetta, New York continued its descent into chaos. Crime is rampant, businesses are fleeing, and the state is hemorrhaging population. Instead of focusing on actual problems, James chose to pursue political theater. Now she'll have to focus on her own legal problems while New York continues to crumble under failed Democrat policies. What we've witnessed this week is nothing short of poetic justice. The woman who built her entire career on trying to destroy Donald Trump has been completely exposed as a fraud herself. The appeals court ruling isn't just a victory for Trump, it's a victory for everyone who believes in actual justice over political persecution. Letitia James thought she could weaponize the legal system without consequences. She thought she could abuse her power and get away with it because she was targeting the right people. Well, justice has a way of catching up with everyone, and her day of reckoning has arrived. The broader message here is clear. The era of weaponized justice is over. The corrupt prosecutors who thought they were untouchable are about to find out that no one, not even the prosecutors themselves, is above the law.